In this video, I am going to share with you what is the difference between a residential property and what is the commercial property. What is the fundamental things that you need to understand. Okay, so residential property, as the term suggests, it's a residence, it's for you to live in. When the other side, the commercial property means commerce, where you do the business from, right? You know, if you go to a grocery shop and buy stuff, that's actually a commercial property because they are doing the business from that. Whereas the house that you are living in, it's actually a residential property. Residential property is also a big market. You know, right now in Australia there are about 10 million properties are there, which is residential property, means people are living on those houses. There are 10 million houses, whereas commercial property is much less in terms of the number of businesses that is happening. In residential property, it's much easier to get loans, right? You know, if you go to most of the lenders, they are ready to give you 80% of your residential property without any lender mortgage insurance, and with 80% LVR, and the remaining 20% you can pay, and of course you can purchase a residential property. Commercial property is a little different. Commercial property, generally speaking, that you need a little bit more money. In other words, the LVR is generally 70% or 60%, depends on, of course, your circumstances. Remember, you have to be eligible to get the loan, particularly in the residential property, whereas in commercial property, it is not so much about eligibility as long as you have that deposit. You know, sometimes in the low doc loan, or it's called that non-recourse loan, you would be able to get that finance easily. Another difference in residential versus commercial is residential is having a bigger growth. It means like if you buy a property today and hold it for, let's say, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, then you will have much better growth as compared to commercial properties. Residential property, it has a lot of emotion involved. If you make it nice and pretty and create that emotion out of it, people are going to pay more money, hence that you will have a bigger growth, generally speaking. On the other side, commercial property is more of an income. You know, you buy commercial property to make money out of it from day one. So that means the commercial return is much higher as compared to residential. However, commercial properties value worth based on the tenancy. If the tenant moves out and the property becomes vacant, the property price becomes drastically low. So until you find a new tenant in the commercial property, the price will not be as much as compared to a residential property. Even a vacant residential property, it is still worth as much as a tenanted residential property. Whereas in a commercial property, the moment it becomes vacant, the price goes down. Whereas if it is tenanted, it actually goes up. One more thing that we understand between residential and commercial is residential property, generally it's government responsibility to make sure that it's become like a tenant friendly lease. Means that government will protect their tenants because that's their vote bank, and they would make sure that their tenants are always, the government will actually make it harder for landlords. So it's not a landlord friendly lease, it's always tenant friendly lease. It means that most of the things that people have, which is for the tenants only, like if you go to NCAT, QCAT, VCAT for any kind of issues with the tenant, it generally goes always in the tenant's favor, unless tenants is really bad and they're not paying rent and all sort of things. Whereas commercial property is always about landlord friendly because it's about business. Because it is business, it's landlord who dictates how the lease will be written, and tenant actually will have to oblige that. Government does not interfere much on this, which is why commercial is so lucrative in terms of making money or having income as compared to a residential property. In generally speaking, that the commercial has a much better cash flow. If you buy a $1 million commercial property and the property is tenanted, you would expect at least 65 to 70,000 net rent from that property. Sometimes even 80,000. It depends on the location where you are buying, what kind of properties you are buying. It could be about 8% net cap. The difference between net and the gross is gross rent which you get in the residential property. It means like all the expenses that landlord has to bear. Expenses in the sense the insurance, expenses in the sense that all the council rates or any other expense on the maintenance, everything will be paid by the landlord. Whereas if it becomes to a commercial property, it depends on how the lease is written. If it is a net rent, that means whatever rent that you are collecting, on top of it, any extra stuff that they have to do, for example, the council rates, that will be paid by the tenant. The insurance, that will be paid by the tenant. Or any other maintenance, everything that with related to the property, it will be fixed or maintained by the tenant. It is not comes to the landlord. And even the landlord pays some of these things, and then landlord claims back to the tenant, which is why it is called net rent. And the net rent is so important because that means you know for sure that every single month that rent is coming. And then you would be able to, so it's for better cash flow. Commercial property is always for better cash flow. And the fundamental thing is that you start with a residential property, you buy few residential property, you hold it for a significant amount like 8 to 10 years, and then sell it off few of these residential properties and then move to commercial. Because once you sell those residential properties and you get that proceed from the residential properties and then redeploy it to commercial property to get a better income. Sometimes you would be, depends on your situation. I have seen people who have multiple properties in residential properties, but they do not have much income. So at the end of the year, they're still losing money. Whereas if they just redeploy some of the money into commercial, they will be able to get a much better return, and they will not be even have to pay from their pocket. They can even earn money. It depends on how much they are deploying into commercial property. I personally, the moment I realized about this commercial property and I understood that at a pivotal moment, I realized that okay, if I sell off all my residential property and redeploy that to a commercial property, and then I will have a significant rental income that I do not have to worry, because after paying all these mortgage costs, still I will be making money, and that amount will be significant. Example, if you have a $1 million equity, and that $1 million, assuming that you sell it off and you pay some taxes, all these things, and then the remaining 800, 700, whatever the amount it is, you redeploy to a commercial property, then most of the cases you'll be able to see that you are making a significant 4,000-5,000 per month extra rental income that you can use, and that you can, so this can go significantly higher because it is the better cash flow in commercial property. Whereas in residential property, it is always, it's a gross rent. If the tenant moves out, sometimes makes damages, and you have to pay from your pocket, and all sort of things that actually makes it less lucrative. If you're just starting out, probably yes, you would be saying that, oh, residential. However, even with starting out, you can jump on, you can do straight away from commercial property, straight away to commercial property, because commercial property is something that you and I can easily invest, provided we put focus and knowledge, we gain knowledge from that. The next part that I would like to talk about is the time and the skill. Like you and I are busy people, right? We always, we have families, we are doing things, perhaps we have jobs, and based on all these things, we literally have about 5 to 10 hours in a week or 20 hours in a week max to do the investment activity. So this is first thing that I want you to understand, that you do not have hours and hours of time in a week to spend on investment. So how much time that you have to calculate. You need to see that, okay, how much time do I have per week that I can learn, I can invest on property investment. Because once you know how much time do you have, then the next part that you need to look into is your skills. What kind of skills do you have? Perhaps you are good at something on development, perhaps you are good at something on renovation, perhaps you are something good at numbers. It depends on what you are good at, and the things that you are not good at, you need to improve your skills. You need to improve, keep on learning, keep on doing. It's not a 6 months, 2 years, 3 years kind of things. You need to keep on doing these things for a long period of time, because once you will start doing for a long period of time, you see that after 1 year, after 2 years, after 3 years, you have gained significant in terms of your investment, and you are focusing more on that. So time and skills are very important part to your so these are the things that you can give as an input, because the more and more you will give input, then you will get a better output. Think about this for a moment. If you want to get something out of it, if you're not providing that effort, how is going to happen? What is the way that you can? Often we think that, okay, my property manager, my XYZ person is going to take care of everything and I do not have to do it. I have so many investors who just comes to me and said that, okay, I asked them that, okay, where did you buy that property? The first question is that, yeah, I bought it in different city. Okay, have you ever visited to invest that? Have you ever visited to inspect the property? No. Who does that? My property manager. And guess what? Your property manager is going to look so many other properties, and they are going to treat your property just like another property. It's not their best interest. They're just getting paid for all these things, day-to-day work that they have to do to make that property compliant. Your goal is to go and inspect and find out what's the problem, what can you do, and why did you buy this property, what is your goal, what's your horizon. Everything needs to be tied up with this property. If you don't have goal, if you just buying it for the sake of buying it, and you have no idea, you are buying it because someone else is asking you to buy it, then it's not going to perform. You need to be calculated. You need to understand that the reason you bought this property, because you want to do this, and by this time you want to exit, you want to sell this property, and then you will move on to commercial property and high income property, or you want to keep this property for long. In that case, showcase or ask yourself how it is making money, because residential property in general speaking, in today's market, it is very difficult to get income. By after paying all the expenses, unless you fully paid up property, you are always losing money. So asking yourself that what is your goal, how you are going to achieve your goal. If you have a goal, if you don't have a goal, first that thing you set it up. Ask yourself, okay, this is my goal. 100,000, 150,000, 200,000 per annum income I need from property. If that is your goal, then ask yourself how you are going to achieve by buying a property in a residential market, and what's your exit strategy. You need to ask these questions to yourself. Too many people, I have seen that they do this, they buy a property and then they just stop. You are unlikely will become financial independent just by buying 1 or 2 properties. It's not going to happen. If you are thinking that, so you need to buy multiple properties. So in other words, you need to have this strategy, you need to stack it up. In my philosophy is, you need to understand, or you need to talk yourself that, okay, this is what my goal is, and this is how you are going to achieve. Because no one else can make these things for you. You need to ask yourself, you need to do this for yourself. Now, if you got this thing so far, if you have come this far, can I ask you a big favor? Can you subscribe my channel? Just give me a little favor to subscribe my channel, and I will try my best to create more and more content for you, and this will all come for free. So all I'm asking, please subscribe my channel, and it will really help me a lot. Investing is nothing but in your mind. If you tell yourself that, okay, no, I cannot do this, and this is my limitation, I cannot do this because I have family, I have this, that. If you are actually put a boundary out of it, you can never go out of that boundary. Whereas if you tell yourself, no, this is how I can do it so far, but there is endless possibilities, and this is the thing that I would do. Let's figure it out how others are doing, and this is how you need to understand, and this is how you need to pick it up with other people's brain who have been doing this. And this is one of the fundamental things that I want to talk about. If you want to do something, find out someone who has done this, and take advice from them. If you take advice from them, you will always be better in investment as compared to asking your family members or your friends who have not done this. Because guess what? If a person who has not done it, they will always scare you. They will always say, oh, it is not possible. They will always actually drag you to their level. Whereas if you want to go up, you would always look up to those people who actually are doing it or who are actually in that position, and ask them, okay, how did you do this? What are the things that you did? And then be a student, listen to them, and then come up with your own conclusion. Then you say that, okay, exactly, this is how I will be doing, or this is not possible for me. At least be informed. Take the decision on your hand, not saying that, oh, it's not possible, I cannot do this. Because by saying that it is not possible or I cannot do it, you are actually saying to yourself, you are limiting yourself, you are putting that boundary. I am saying, try to go beyond that boundary. Try to see that it is possible. In investment, in real estate investment, it is possible to buy multiple properties. In commercial investment, even though you have less, there are so many different strategies that you can follow, that you can buy commercial properties, that you can buy residential property, that you can buy multiple residential properties. It is possible. I am saying that I have done it. Multiple other of my friends, colleagues, I have been talking that they have done it, they have been doing this. So it is possible to have multiple properties in your portfolio.